I also believe that the LinkedIn groups are vastly underused by journalists. In almost any field of human interest, there is a group out there, and if it's open, you should try to join it if it's on your beat, so that you can, again, listen for story ideas, listen for things that you may not see otherwise, and that's why I encourage you to do that. Questions or comments from anybody? Yeah.
Going back to Twitter.
Yeah.
Let's say you write something like Virgin Airlines did a terrible job on my flight today.
Okay.
But then Brittany over here retweets it.
Right.
And you just said, okay, no, forget it. Rebecca, no, she can't do Virgin Island or whatever airline. Okay, it can affect me. Will it affect her too?
Well, the question was, I'm sure not all of you heard it, was that if she says Virgin Airways is terrible and Brittany retweets it, who gets in trouble? I think the retweeting is something that is not as much directly as, and by the way, Brittany might be doing it to get you in trouble in the first place, right? She might be doing it to kind of get attention to what you're doing. So you've got to, so it's mostly the person who did the writing is the person who's going to be in trouble. By the way, there's an example of this from very early in Twitter. One of the journalists who covered the White House sent out a tweet about something, and he had tweeted about 140 characters, and somebody who retweeted that edited it to drop the word NOT from the tweet. The original tweet was seen by a few hundred people. The second tweet, which was now crediting the original person, but no one, and it was seen by thousands and tens of thousands of people. And no one wrote back to the original person and said, hey, did you mean to drop the word not before you tweeted it? No, they just retweeted it. And he issued what I believe is the first Twitter apology for something he didn't do. Right? He said, I'm sorry, and it wasn't even his tweet. So people can take your tweet and put an RT in front of it and affect it that way as well. One of the things that I want to talk about is recommendations on LinkedIn. How many of you have gotten asked for recommendations and were unsure what to do? A lot of us, right? My suggestion about the world of recommendations is to really think about giving them out very strategically and very carefully. You shouldn't feel beholden to just anybody who asks, because anything you say on LinkedIn will be directly attributed to you and will be part of your social profile that we talked about at the beginning, right? So if someone asks you for a LinkedIn request, you can tell them, look, I'm not giving them out, or I'm only giving them out very selectively. Please ask me again later, or don't ask me again. But have a policy so that you're not stuck. I know people who end up giving these out and give out too many. It reflects on you. If you go on my LinkedIn account, I've given out, I think, about 20. Now that sounds like a lot, but teaching 20 years at Columbia, that's nothing, right? I always say no to people. On the other hand, some of the people who've gotten my recommendation have said that it has been very helpful because it becomes one more recommendation in the list that they are looking at. And people haven't even called me. They just use the LinkedIn reference. Well, a couple of tips: if you are ever giving a LinkedIn recommendation, keep it very short and very specific about the things that you have supervised this person doing, and make sure it's for a limited time period, meaning from June of 08 to August 10, I supervise this person, rather than kind of a blanket endorsement, because you never know, and you don't want to get caught up in that. Does that make sense to everybody? So one of the things that people are doing now is that more of this kind of visualization is taking place. And this is a Facebook app called Brazen Careers. And some of you may have seen this. And what this does is it visualizes your LinkedIn connections. And so if I look at this, and I don't know how clear this is, the map of the United States, and it shows you where my LinkedIn connections are. So if I were trying to hire me as a reporter, I might say, well, it's good you have a lot of connections in the Northeast and in Florida on the West Coast. Well, here in North Dakota, you have no connection. So if I was being hired as a reporter in North Dakota, it wouldn't make sense, right? Perhaps because I don't have connections there. So you're going to see much more of this visualization than we've ever seen before. So keep an eye out for that. But now let's talk about Facebook. How many of you love all the changes